awesome. Stop lying, Ray Charles. Man, I like that. Is that a cool song or what? You know, we can play it anytime we want if you press this button.
Come on, California. And I know, baby. Every day,
Every day and every night. All the time. Anyway, I digress. Hey, this is Pete Monfre. You know what this means. It's Thursday. Every Thursday I'm live on LinkedIn, and I'm talking B2B marketing with the folks from my studio here in beautiful Austin, Texas. Although there's no windows in here, so I don't know. It might be beautiful outside, and it probably is, but I don't know. Today's topic, the great B2B lead generation scam. Are you falling for it? Have you fallen for it? Is it really a scam? Am I wearing pants? Stay tuned to find out. So every week, we put on this somewhat heroic effort, if I do say so myself, to help you make better marketing decisions. Stop throwing away your money on stuff that doesn't work, and help you drive opportunity to your business. I'm stumbling over my words. But that's why I created this podcast and called it Tell the Truth, because the marketing industry, not known for being that truthful these days. And really, I just want to share everything I've learned over the last 30 years, helping B2B companies drive demand, capture demand, reinvent the words, and use new words for same old concepts. We cover a lot of basic concepts here on this program because I think they're getting lost in the shuffle over time, but it's really the basics that count. So, but what is the scam? So what's the deal here? What am I talking about? All right, I got to tell the truth. It's not always a scam, but it's kind of a thing. It's a practice used by agencies, by in-house teams, by digital agencies, by all kinds of different companies involved in marketing, where they cherry pick certain types of metrics, usually because they're easy to measure or they're easy to baffle people with, and they do this to sort of obfuscate their performance. And they're called vanity metrics. Common language for that is our vanity metrics. In other words, they look good, but they don't really contribute to the bottom line. So, but to tell the truth, they're not always because of some nefarious reason, right? It's a little bit more complicated than that. In most companies, large, small, mid-size, the leadership has set the incentive for the marketing folks to give vanity metrics. In other words, they say, I think I put in the post something about, we just want leads, damn it. How hard can it be? And it's, they're incentivizing the use of vanity metrics because they themselves have not really sat down and defined what a lead is and defined the quality criteria and made sure that everybody on the team is on the same page there. And so, it's a lot easier for marketing to say, all right, great, and then come back with some things that look good, usually called MQLs, or marketing qualified opportunities, or marketing qualified leads. Give an example. Somebody downloads a lead magnet, a PDF. They filled out a little form, or maybe you've done away with forms. That's a trend now to reduce friction. But either way, they downloaded something because they have some level of interest. Boom, that information, the first name, last name, email, whatever information you can get out of them, you have it now, right? It's a lead. It's a lead. It's an MQL, all right? It might be or it might not be. The odds are that it isn't, and that it's low intent. In that example, usually they're low intent, and so not all leads are the same. But by measuring MQLs and not having good definitions, that's where I think things get really messy and wrong. So it isn't nefarious necessarily. It's just that this this is how it's evolved, and it continues to evolve. In fact, I'm going to show you some different funnels here in a couple of minutes, because God, who doesn't love talking about funnels? Really, seriously. And I'm from Wisconsin, so sometimes that conversation like leans into funnel cake, if you know what I'm saying. Yes, that's behind the cheddar curtain. That is where I'm from. But back to leads. And, we generally talk B2B on this program. It's B2B. We work with a lot of service businesses, companies that are selling intangible things. We help them figure out what makes themselves unique. We create marketing plans, this sort of thing. And we've done this for 30 years. And so this is our outlet to kind of hopefully share some knowledge with you, share some ideas, get you thinking about things. But let's focus on these MQLs and what the deal is here. So that person that may downloaded something or filled out a form, every medium and every method of inquiry is going to have a different level of intent. And intent is actually really important. I talk about a lot of these things because we run into it so often that it's just significant. And one thing we run into all the time is, let's say somebody has a digital agency or an SEO firm, and they're doing search engine optimization. Or maybe they're doing paid ads, paid Google ads. Their goal and their responsibility ends at getting the person to the page. Sometimes to the home page, which should not ever be the case, but whatever it is, that's kind of where their thing ends. They don't really care what happens after they're able to get that little tick mark in Google Analytics that somebody visited your page, and they can keep showing you graphs that say, oh, it's 5% more people visited that page. Of course, none of them converted. They don't care about what happens after that. And I'm making generalizations. Some do. Most seem to just, that's it. That's why I think an agency that is integrated and strategic in nature is going to do a lot better than a sort of standalone tactic like we do SEO or we're a digital agency. We only do digital stuff. It's like it isn't about the stuff, right? It's about how it all works together. So, but the truth is, most companies really haven't sat down and sort of defined what a lead is. What's a lead? Is it an MQL? Let me switch to these slides real quick because I'll show you this. But first, a commercial. On November 9th, we've got a free webinar coming up. We'll put a link down in the comments called The CEO's Guide to Marketing in a Recession. 7 proven growth strategies for B2B. I've been in business now. This is my 5th recession, and my co-host Bill Lowell from Business Development Directives also been in business for the same amount of time, 32 years, and we've worked together through all of this. And so Bill and I are sharing what we've learned over 4 recessions, and to help you get through number 5. And so hope you'll join us November 9th, middle of the day, I think. See, I'm so excited. I'm breathing kind of hard, It's like I'm out of breath a little bit. I know, actually, I ran up the stairs right before this, and so I don't recommend that. Anyway, let's look at some funnels. So this is so what I did is I just Googled lead funnels, and I took some of the images I found almost randomly because they're really all over the place. I mean, the nomenclature is all over the place. Literally everything is all over the place. So this is like kind of a traditional sales funnel, has these different stages. It's called a blended funnels. What that means basically is all leads from everywhere go in the top, and theoretically they go through this somewhat linear process. There's different variations of these. Again, the nomenclature is different, but the idea is basically the same. Starts off as a lead, whatever that means. It's a marketing qualified lead, whatever that means. Sales qualified lead, whatever that means. Opportunity. Closed. I think we can all agree on the definition of closed. At least I hope so. Would hurt my feelings if not. And then this is a marketing funnel that I think is probably pretty standard, although, at Clarity Marketing Support, the red level at the top, we really consider those people suspects. In other words, they're not really a lead yet because they haven't shown any interest, but we know that they fit our ideal client profile or they're close to it. So really those we suspect they might have a problem we can solve, so we call those suspects. But then marketing qualified, sales accepted. In other words, when did that lead get turned over to sales? So this is actually a pretty good one. We're going to come back to it. Then we get to the wiring diagram for the space shuttle, courtesy of Serious Decisions. Now, this is kind of falling out of favor now, but it's actually still pretty relevant. And when you first look at it, you're like, I don't want to look at that. But let's look at it anyway. So here they're still blending the leads. Say they come from inbound and outbound, right? And so they're blending them into one. I think that's kind of a problem. We'll talk about that. And in this case, they're using automation, and then they're doing teleprospecting, which is a fancy word for making sales calls. And they got some arrows kind of going all over the place. Kind of hard for me to figure out without too much concentration. Oh, I see. So sales accepted leads, they go from automation qualified to, oh, this is probably for an e-commerce company. So there's ability to buy something directly, I think. But the thing is, this is complicated. Sales qualification, there's sales generated leads, sales accepted leads. In other words, sales apparently will sometimes reject leads, or that they're not really leads, or they're not ready to be turned over to sales. So this funnel accounts for that. But it's still pretty linear, and it still blends everything together. And I was going to talk about this topic today, and it's interesting because I follow this guy named Chris Walker, and you should check him out. And his topic today was the way that we treat leads like they're all the same, right? And that's not the case necessarily. And these are some stats that he put in his post this morning. And if you like this podcast, go follow Chris. He'll show you how it's done. But this is awesome. So in this case, it's a $100 million annual recurring revenue B2B SaaS company. That's something to keep in mind. Chris's company they work for SaaS companies. And so this may or may not apply exactly to your business, but my experience is it matches this. I mean, I think that's interesting. This is what we see too. So content syndication, 0.2%. So 1 out of every 500 leads, your sales team wins. Not great. Demo requests, in the case if you had a SaaS company or a platform, 7.9% close. That's 1 out of every 12 leads. So that's very good, actually. So and that seems obvious, right? If they want to see a demo, they're probably pretty, there's some intent there. Display ads, 0. Okay, your sales team never wins these leads. Okay, yeah, I hate to say it, but and you need to test for your business and for your industry and everything like that. But display ads have really gone down in effectiveness for B2B companies. All kinds of display ads, trade shows and conferences, 2%, 1 out of 50. And that shows that trade shows and conferences still have value. It depends on what your strategy is. Like, I'm not a big proponent of exhibiting, for example, but I am a big proponent of going there and networking. And 2%, not bad. 1 about every 50. Paid social lead generation, 0.2, so 1 out of every 500. Paid search lead generation, 0.1 of those, quote, leads. 1 out of every 1,000 leads you win on your paid search. And in this case, webinars, almost running away with the contest, only second to demo requests, 5.2% close rate, 1 out of every 20. So that's fascinating, isn't it? So this is where we come into the problem, is how do you figure out what's working of that subset? Here, let's show that set again of these. Let's say you're doing these 7 tactics, and you're looking at each one and you're saying which one is working. Well, if you took all those leads and you jammed them up in the top of your funnel, you wouldn't know. Even if you had the spaceship, the Starship funnel that I showed earlier, that's complicated, you still wouldn't know because they're blended together, right? And so what this shows you is that if you look at just the metrics, here, let me You see, check my notes here. Yeah, so if you just look at the numbers, it looks like the marketing team is just killing it. They're MQLs because all of these count, right, towards the total, even though a whole bunch of them never close. But they all count towards the total, so they're like, we're rocking it. But in that case, MQL becomes a vanity metric. It's not really what counts. It is a step in the path, right? But it isn't really what counts. And so that's kind of what I call the lead gen scam. It's like, hey, we're going to put these reports in front of you. We're going to pick esoteric metrics that are easy to measure, but not necessarily the right things, but they're easy to measure and they look impressive. And we might switch them on you depending on how things are going, but you always get to see a green arrow pointing up. And but it's probably on some trivial thing that doesn't make any difference. So, that proverbial sort of CEO saying, look, we need leads. People, listen, people, we need leads. Qualified, good leads, solid leads. How hard can that be, right? Nobody's going to stand up and be, well, sir, it's super fucking hard, right? Let me explain a million things to you, Mr. CEO. No, never going to happen. What they're going to say is, absolutely, sir, let's get her done. And then they're going to go and conspire and figure out, well, which, let's call everything an MQL because there's no definition. What about quality? He said quality leads, right? How do we measure that? I don't know. We don't have a system for measuring quality of leads. What are you talking about? Are you nuts or something? Just use page views, this is really what goes on. So, like I said before, it isn't necessarily nefarious. In that case, the CEO doesn't really understand how it works, right? And, you could argue, well, he should, especially a CEO, because it's kind of his job, but or a president, also his job. Marketing kind of comes under their umbrella, but a lot of times they don't have the background, or they're not stupid people by any means, but this is not an area of expertise, just like astrophysics, not an area of my expertise. So if you needed someone to map out some stars for you, I would be the wrong guy to call. But if you need an overarching marketing plan, maybe I am the right guy to call. Depends on you, I guess. Hey, just a reminder, every Thursday here at 11 o'clock Central, we tell the truth about B2B marketing. All the truth, nothing but the truth. Can you handle the truth? Today we're talking about some of the fallacies of the way that we measure leads and how we try to attribute them to different tactics or activities that we're doing. And in reality, and if you're really honest with yourself and you look at your own company, and it doesn't matter if you're a $150 million company or a bootstrapping startup, we lie to ourselves and we say, we know what our funnel is supposed to look like. We know what a lead looks like. We know what everybody on our team knows what a qualified or a high quality, high intent lead looks like. No, they don't. If you haven't written it down, if you haven't agonized over it a little bit, they probably don't, right? And so if you just look at the metrics by themselves and they're all mixed together in your funnel, that doesn't differentiate between where the lead came from, you're going to cut the wrong stuff, really. I think that's what it comes down to. You're going to, in this case, in the case that Chris was showing, let's jump back to it real quick. In the case he was showing, webinars actually performed pretty well, but this company was, I think, heavily invested in paid social and paid search, and it turns out, and they were heavily invested in spending money there because they really felt like that was driving their demand. But look at the numbers, right? Not good. So, but not clear either. So I think that's really today's point. It's not clear, right? So have a clear, and again, back to these funnels. I keep switching back and forth on you, but back to these funnels. If your funnel looks like this, or it's more complicated than this, and you're a small company with modest resources, this is probably not the level of tracking that you're going to be able to support. Because keep in mind, the more stuff, the more metrics, the more KPIs you track, the more it costs, right? So sometimes it's a good idea to maybe not be at the cutting edge and use something that works for you. I like this one. I would just change letter A. But this is easy. We're a small company here. This is easy for us to manage, but well, but we have a pretty good sense of where things are coming from. But we're so small that it doesn't really matter that much. But for most of our clients, it does, and so we may create different kinds of funnels for them. And so all leads are not created the same. And are you getting vanity metrics from your agency, from your marketing people? Well, are you asking them for vanity metrics? Is that a discussion that you're having? Is it really leads that you want, or is it closed deals? Back in the day, over the years, we've developed a number of different types of lead scoring systems. And again, we like to keep it simple. Companies with more resources can make it more scientific and more accurate, do more testing and do more research. Smaller companies keep it simple. Hell, I think even big companies should keep it simple, right? But the answer to this problem is having a disciplined decision-making process about how you're going to measure things, and then getting those definitions figured out. And for example, criteria. What is the criteria of a high-quality lead? Well, let's talk about that for a minute. What is the criteria? Well, it's someone who is in an active buying process, okay? They're not just shopping around kicking tires, right? They're in an active buying process. They have budget, or budget you don't necessarily know on the front end, but let's say they're in an industry that you specialize in, or in which you want to grow and you want to get more experience, then they get a few extra points for that. They're of a certain size. You're able to demonstrate experience in their business. It's a higher score, so it's a weighted scoring thing. And so that's the kind of stuff that you would evaluate any kind of inquiry, lead, whatever you want to call it. But one thing that kind of chaps is calling everything leads. Like these list companies want to sell you a list, which is basically just a list, but they call each entry a lead. No, those are not leads. We don't, they're suspects. They're just people that fit a profile that we think is the best profile for us. But don't call them leads. It can't be a lead until there is intent. Okay, so again, we're back to why this matters. It's like certain tactics and the way, for example, webinars. Our webinar is called CEO's Guide to Marketing in a Recession. Okay, I don't think too many people are gonna sign up for that are not interested in that topic. It's a narrow topic. So sometimes it's the way that you do these tactics. Well, actually, always it's the way that you do them. It isn't just that you do them. It's that they're done in a specific way, a strategic way, a way that connects to all the other things that you're doing. And the only way I know how to do that is to create a plan. And so if you don't have a plan, or in this case, you don't have these things defined and agreed upon, and everybody's on the same page, right? If you don't have that, it's literally impossible to actually measure or make good decisions. So sometimes just going through the process fixes the problem. And so I hope you'll comment. I hope you'll share and like, and you can subscribe to us on YouTube. And again, we'll put the linkage down in the comments. And, when you like a post, where's Ray? There he is. When you like a post and when you share it, it shows LinkedIn's algorithm that you like this, and it will spread it farther, and it does us a great service. Also, I want to hear from you. I want to hear what you think about these ideas. Did you get value? Can you dig it? We'll see you next Thursday.